Thousands of banks, hundreds of trillions of rupees, and they're all running the same game. You've been using banks your entire life. You trust them with your money, your future, your family's security. But do you actually know what they're doing with it? No, because they don't want you to know. This is the banking system exposed. Welcome to World Without Illusions. Here's what they don't teach you in school. Banks didn't start as some noble institution to help people. They started because someone figured out how to profit off other people's stuff. Thousands of years ago, before digital accounts and plastic cards, people had real wealth. Gold, grain, things with actual value. And storing it safely was a problem. So some clever operators said, "Hey, leave your valuables with me. I'll keep them safe." Simple storage service. Right, wrong. When gold became currency, these storage services evolved into something much more dangerous. People would deposit their gold, get a receipt, and go about their day. But here's where it gets interesting. People started trading the receipts instead of the gold. Why carry heavy gold when you could carry a piece of paper that said you owned gold? The receipts became paper money. And that's when the real game began. The banks noticed something. Most people left their gold sitting there for months, years even, just sitting. So they made a calculation. What if we lend out gold that technically isn't ours? They gambled that not everyone would demand their gold back at the same time. And they were right. They started lending gold they didn't own, charging interest, and pocketing the profit. Your gold, their profit. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what's happening in your bank account right now. Eventually, money wasn't even backed by gold anymore. Now it's just paper, numbers on a screen, backed by nothing except our collective agreement to pretend it has value. This is called fiat currency, and it's the biggest illusion in the modern world. But here's the twist. This system created something powerful. It allowed money to multiply in ways that would have been impossible with physical gold. And that brings us to the real question. If banks don't actually store your money anymore, why do we still need them? When you say, bank, you're probably thinking of the place with your checking account. That's a retail bank, the public face. But behind that, there's an entire hierarchy. Commercial banks, funding businesses, not individuals' investment banks, moving billions in corporate deals and stock market central banks. The banks that control all other banks, they look different, but they're all playing the same game. And here's what that game actually is. When you deposit 1 rupee lakh into your account, you think it's sitting there safely. Right? It's not. The bank keeps maybe 10 rupees 000 in reserve. The other 90 rupee 000. They lend it out. Your balance is just a number in a database. They're legally obligated to give it back if you ask. But they don't actually have it. This is called fractional reserve banking. And here's where it gets wild. That 90 rupee 000 they lent out gets spent by someone. Who deposits it in their bank? That bank keeps 9 rupee 000 and lends out 81 rupee 000. That gets spent and deposited again. Your original 1 rupee lakh eventually creates 10 rupee lakhs of economic activity. From nothing. Now, before you panic and withdraw everything, this system actually works. Sort of. Banks are middlemen connecting two groups. People with money sitting around doing nothing, people who need money to build something productive. A rupee that doesn't get spent might as well not exist. But a rupee that gets loaned out, invested, and used, that rupee builds businesses, creates jobs, funds research, builds cities. Without banks, the economy would be a fraction of its current size. Progress would crawl. So yes, they're profiting off your deposits, but they're also keeping the entire system running. But here's the dark side. This delicate balance can collapse. And when it does, everyone suffers. Bank runs. When too many people demand their money at once, even healthy banks can fail. This happened during the Great Depression. Hundreds of banks collapsed. Bad loans. Banks want to make as many loans as possible to maximize profit. So they start giving money to risky borrowers. When too many of those loans fail, the bank goes under. 2008 was this exact scenario. Risky mortgages, overvalued assets, mass failure, one bank failing. Not a big deal. But banks are so interconnected that, when one goes down, it triggers a chain reaction. That's the real danger. This is why every country has a central bank. In India, it's the Reserve Bank of India, RBI. In the US, it's the Federal Reserve. Their job: control the entire banking system from above. They do three things: help banks settle payments with each other, act as a lender of last resort to prevent bank runs, regulate the economy by controlling interest rates. Here's how that last part works. Banks borrow money from each other to make more loans. The central bank sets the interest rate on those loans. Raise rates. Borrowing becomes expensive. Banks lend less. Economy slows. Inflation drops. Lower rates. Borrowing becomes cheap. Banks lend more. Economy grows. Unemployment drops. The central bank walks a tightrope. Grow the economy without letting it overheat. They control how fast or slow your money moves through the system. So let's pull this all together. Banks started as storage scams that evolved into lending machines. Your deposits don't sit in a vault. They get multiplied through the system. Fractional reserve banking creates massive economic growth. Until it doesn't, bank failures can trigger global collapse. See 2008. Central banks exist to prevent total chaos. This entire system runs on trust, leverage, and carefully managed risk. When it works, it's brilliant. When it breaks, it's catastrophic. And the wildest part, most of this happens in the background while you're just trying to pay rent and buy groceries. So now you know. The next time someone tells you to just trust the bank, you'll know exactly what that means. You'll know how they profit, how they multiply, how they fail. Knowledge is power, but only if you act on it. Drop a comment if this changed how you see money. Subscribe. We're exposing more systems you were never supposed to understand. Share this. Tag someone who still thinks their bank account is safe. Welcome to World Without Illusions, where the truth doesn't need permission. We'll see you in the next investigation.